My sister sabotaged my medical school interview. Then she needed the surgeon I became. My sister deleted my alarm, hid my car keys, and called my interview location pretending to be me to cancel. I woke up at 9:47 a.m. to 17 missed calls from Johns Hopkins Medical School, asking why I hadn't shown up for my 8 a.m. interview. The interview I'd spent 4 years working toward. The one that would determine if I got into one of the best medical programs in the country. My phone was plugged in across the room, not on my nightstand where I'd left it. My alarm had been turned off completely. I grabbed it and saw the missed calls, the voicemails, the email from the admissions office marked urgent. My hands shook as I listened to the first voicemail. Professional woman's voice, slightly concerned. Ms. Hartley, this is Dr. Patricia Okonkwo from Johns Hopkins Admissions. We had you scheduled for an interview this morning at 8 a.m., and you haven't arrived. Please call us back immediately to reschedule if there's been an emergency. The second voicemail, 20 minutes later, was less friendly. Same woman, more irritation. Ms. Hartley, we've now received a call from someone claiming to be you, saying you're no longer interested in attending Johns Hopkins. We need you to contact us directly to confirm this is accurate. The third voicemail was the admissions director. Ms. Hartley, we're withdrawing your interview slot. We had someone call this morning at 7:30 claiming to be you and stating you'd decided to pursue other opportunities. If this was not you, you need to contact us within the hour with an explanation. Otherwise, we're moving forward with alternate candidates. I called back immediately. Got voicemail. Left a frantic message explaining I never called, never canceled, something was wrong. Tried 3 more times. No answer. Sent emails. Called the main office. Finally got through to an assistant who said the admissions committee had already filled my slot and moved on. They'd received a very clear call from my phone number canceling. Unless I could prove it wasn't me, there was nothing they could do. My phone number. I checked my call log. Nothing outgoing to Johns Hopkins at 7:30 a.m., but my phone had been across the room when I woke up, not on my nightstand. I went downstairs and found my sister Vanessa in the kitchen making coffee. She was 26, 2 years older than me, and she'd gotten into medical school 3 years ago on her first try. She was finishing her 3rd year at a different program, top of her class, everything our parents had ever wanted. She looked up when I came in and smiled. Morning. You're up late. Didn't you have that interview? Everything clicked into place. The phone moved across the room, the deleted alarm, my car keys missing from the hook by the door where I always left them. I'd been living at home to save money during my gap year while working as an EMT. Vanessa had moved back home 2 months ago, saying her apartment lease ended and she wanted to save money before residency applications. Our parents had been thrilled to have both daughters under one roof again. What did you do? I asked. My voice came out steady, cold. She took a sip of coffee. What are you talking about? You canceled my interview. You called them pretending to be me. That's insane. Why would I do that? Because you've spent 3 years being the golden child and you couldn't stand me getting into a better program than yours. Her expression flickered. Just for a second, I saw it. Satisfaction. She'd meant to do this. This wasn't an accident or a misunderstanding. She'd deliberately sabotaged the most important interview of my life. You're being paranoid, she said. Maybe you just overslept and you're looking for someone to blame. My alarm was deleted. My phone was moved. My car keys are missing. And someone called from my phone number to cancel. Maybe you did it in your sleep. You've always been an anxious mess before big events. Remember when you had that panic attack before the MCAT? She was gaslighting me. Standing in our parents' kitchen, drinking coffee, and gaslighting me about sabotaging my entire future. I grabbed my phone and pulled up the call log, shoving it in her face. There's no outgoing call at 7:30, but they said someone called from my number. How did you do it? I have no idea what you're talking about. But honestly, Jenna, this victim mentality is exactly why you're not getting into top programs. You need to take responsibility for your own failures. I wanted to scream, wanted to grab her coffee and throw it against the wall. Instead, I went back upstairs, locked my door, and called Johns Hopkins again. This time I got through to Dr. Okonkwo directly. I explained everything, that I never canceled, that someone had called pretending to be me, that my phone showed no outgoing calls at that time. She listened patiently, then said, Ms. Hartley, the person who called knew specific details about your application, your undergraduate institution, your MCAT score, your research experience. This wasn't a random prank. It was my sister. She has access to all that information. We live in the same house. Can you prove it was her? No, but I can prove it wasn't me. My phone has no call log. Someone must have used a spoofing app or called from a different phone. Dr. Okonkwo sighed. Even if that's true, we've already moved your slot to another candidate. Our interview season is nearly complete. I'm sorry, but there's nothing we can do this cycle. So my sister destroys my chance at my dream school and there's no consequence? I understand your frustration, but without concrete proof, this is a family matter, not an admissions matter. You're welcome to reapply next cycle. She hung up. I sat on my bed staring at the wall, trying to process that 4 years of work had just evaporated because my sister couldn't handle me succeeding. I applied to 12 other medical schools, got interviews at 6. Vanessa was suddenly very busy during each of my interview mornings. I started sleeping with my phone under my pillow, setting 5 alarms, hiding my car keys in my room. I didn't trust her near anything related to my applications. My parents noticed the tension, but didn't understand it. When I tried explaining what Vanessa had done, they said I was being dramatic, that Vanessa would never do something like that, that maybe I had overslept and was looking for someone to blame because I was embarrassed. Their golden child could do no wrong. I was just the younger daughter who couldn't get her life together. 3 of my 6 interviews went well. 1 went badly because I was so paranoid about sabotage that I couldn't focus. 2 were mediocre. I got waitlisted at 2 schools, rejected from the other 4. Vanessa got her top choice residency. My parents threw her a celebration dinner. I sat there smiling while they toasted her success, and she looked at me across the table with this small, satisfied smirk that no one else saw. I spent the next year working as an EMT and reapplying to medical schools. This time I got my own apartment, a tiny studio I could barely afford. I wasn't staying in that house with her anymore, wasn't giving her another opportunity to destroy my future. I applied to 15 schools, got 9 interviews, accepted to 3 programs. None of them were Hopkins, but one was a solid state school with a good reputation. I accepted and started that fall. The same year, Vanessa started her residency in neurosurgery at a prestigious hospital in Boston. My parents were so proud of her. She was becoming a brain surgeon. I was just going to some state school they'd never heard of. Medical school was brutal. Every single day I thought about quitting. The workload was crushing. The competition was intense. Everyone in my class seemed smarter, more prepared, more naturally talented. I studied twice as hard as everyone else just to keep up. Failed my first anatomy exam. Barely passed pharmacology. Spent nights in the library until 3 a.m. memorizing pathways and drug interactions. But I had something the other students didn't. Rage pure. Focused rage at my sister for what she'd done. Every time I wanted to quit, I thought about her smirking at that dinner table, about her deleting my alarm, about her stealing my Hopkins interview and facing 0 consequences. That rage kept me going when exhaustion and self-doubt said to stop. I decided to specialize in cardiothoracic surgery, the hardest surgical specialty, the one with the longest training, the highest stakes, the most brutal hours. Vanessa had chosen neurosurgery because it was prestigious. I chose cardiothoracic because I wanted to be better than her at something she couldn't touch. 3rd year of medical school, we started clinical rotations. I worked every extra shift I could get, volunteered for every surgery, stayed late to observe procedures. The attendings noticed. One of them, Dr. Raymond Osei, a cardiothoracic surgeon, pulled me aside after a particularly complex case. "You've been in the OR more than any other medical student this year." "Why?" "Because I love it, and I want to be the best." He studied me for a moment. "Surgery isn't about being the best. It's about being good enough to save lives when it matters. Then I want to be good enough that I never lose a patient because I wasn't skilled enough." He nodded slowly. "You've got the drive. Now you need the precision. Come observe my cases. I'll teach you what I can." Dr. Osei became my mentor. He was demanding and harsh, but he saw something in me. He let me do more than medical students usually did. Hold retractors, close incisions, ask questions during procedures. He pushed me to think faster, move more precisely, understand not just what we were doing, but why. I graduated medical school in the top 10% of my class. Not the top, but respectable. Applied to cardiothoracic surgery residencies. Got interviews at 6 programs. Matched at a strong program in Philadelphia, not the absolute top tier, but known for producing excellent surgeons. Vanessa finished her neurosurgery residency that same year. She got a job at a top hospital in Boston, making twice what I'd make as a resident. My parents flew out for her white coat ceremony. They didn't come to mine because it was the same weekend and they'd already committed to hers. Residency was hell. 100-hour weeks. Surgeries that lasted 12, 14, 16 hours. Attendings who screamed if you made the smallest mistake. Patients who died despite everything we did right. I lost more weight than was healthy. Stopped sleeping more than 4 hours a night. Existed in a constant state of exhaustion and adrenaline. But I got better. Faster. More precise. By my 3rd year, I was the resident attendings requested for complex cases. The one they trusted with difficult dissections. The one who stayed calm when things went wrong in the OR. Dr. Osei, who'd moved to Philadelphia and was now an attending at my hospital, said I was the most naturally talented surgical resident he'd taught in 20 years. I didn't believe him. I knew I wasn't naturally talented. I'd built every skill through repetition and rage and refusing to be less than extraordinary. 5th year of residency, I was chief resident, the one managing the other residents, coordinating schedules, running the service, the one who got called for every emergency, every complication, every patient circling the drain at 3 a.m. I lived in the hospital, barely had an apartment anymore, just a place to keep clothes and occasionally shower. Vanessa was thriving in Boston. According to my parents, she was being published in major journals, giving talks at conferences, dating a successful lawyer. Everything was perfect for her. I didn't talk to her, hadn't spoken to her in 6 years except for forced interactions at family holidays I couldn't avoid. She'd never apologized, never even acknowledged what she'd done. My parents thought I was holding a grudge over nothing. After residency, I got accepted into a cardiothoracic surgery fellowship at Mass General in Boston. 2 more years of training, learning from the best surgeons in the country. Vanessa was still in Boston. I didn't tell her I was moving there. The fellowship was intense. More complex cases, more responsibility. I was operating on hearts that other surgeons said were inoperable, doing transplants, repairs, procedures that required microscopic precision. I lost patients. That's inevitable in cardiac surgery. But I saved more than I lost. My success rate was higher than the other fellows, the attendings noticed. One of them, Dr. Kenji Yamamoto, head of the cardiac surgery department, started giving me the cases other fellows weren't ready for. A year into my fellowship, I got a call from my mother. She was crying. Vanessa had collapsed at work. They'd rushed her to the ER brain aneurysm. She needed emergency surgery. I felt nothing, just cold analytical distance. Which hospital? Mass General, they're prepping her for surgery now. Can you come? I'm already at Mass General. I'll find out what's happening. I hung up and went to the surgical floor. Found Vanessa's chart. The aneurysm was bad, large, irregular, in a difficult location. High risk of rupture during surgery, high risk of stroke or death. The neurosurgeon assigned to her case was Dr. Neil Hoffman, one of the best in the department. But he was in another surgery that was running long. They needed someone to operate now. The attending neurosurgeon asked if anyone was available. I spoke before thinking, I can do it. Dr. Yamamoto looked at me. You're cardiac, not neuro. I've observed enough neuro cases. I know the anatomy. And she's my sister. The room went quiet. Your sister? Yes. And if she dies while we're waiting for Hoffman to finish, that's on us. Dr. Yamamoto studied me for a long moment. Can you be objective? I'm always objective. That wasn't entirely true. But I was capable of separating personal feelings from surgical necessity. He nodded. Then scrub in. I'll supervise. I prepped for surgery with hands that didn't shake. Vanessa was unconscious on the table, her head shaved and marked for incision. She had no idea I was about to cut into her brain. Dr. Yamamoto walked me through it. The approach, the angles, the risks. We opened her skull carefully, navigated to the aneurysm. It was worse than the scans showed, larger, with thin walls ready to rupture at any moment. One wrong move and she'd stroke out or bleed into her brain. I worked with precision I didn't know I had. Every movement controlled, every clip placed exactly right. Dr. Yamamoto barely had to guide me. I could feel the difference between healthy tissue and compromised vessels, could see the architecture of blood flow like a map. 6 hours into the surgery, I placed the final clip. The aneurysm was secured. Blood flow rerouted safely. No rupture, no bleeding. Vanessa would survive. We closed her up and I stepped out of the OR. My parents were in the waiting room. They stood when they saw me in surgical scrubs. How is she? My mother asked. Stable. The surgery went well. She'll need monitoring, but she should make a full recovery. My mother collapsed into my father with relief. Thank God, who was the surgeon? We need to thank them. I pulled off my surgical cap. I was the surgeon. They stared at me. You? But you're not a neurosurgeon. I'm a surgical fellow. I know enough. And I was available when she needed someone immediately. My father's face did something complicated. You operated on your sister? Yes. But you two haven't spoken in years. You hate her. I thought about that. About the deleted alarm. The stolen interview. The 6 years of silence. I don't hate her. I just don't trust her. But she needed surgery and I was capable of doing it. So I did. My mother started crying. Thank you. Thank you for saving her. I nodded and walked away. I'd saved her life, but that didn't erase what she'd done to me. Vanessa woke up 3 days later. I wasn't there when it happened. I was in another surgery, working on a heart transplant that took 9 hours. By the time I finished, she was awake and talking to my parents. I stopped by her room that evening. She was sitting up in bed, bandages around her head, looking pale and weak, but alive. She saw me in the doorway, and her expression changed. Recognition, then shock. Jenna? Hey, I stayed in the doorway. Didn't come closer. They said you did my surgery. I did. Why? Because you needed one and I was available. She looked down at her hands. I could have died. Yes. The aneurysm was in a bad location, but I placed the clips correctly and rerouted blood flow. You'll be fine. I don't understand. After everything, why would you help me? I stepped into the room then, closed the door behind me. You want to talk about everything? Okay, let's talk about it. She went very still. You sabotaged my Johns Hopkins interview, deleted my alarm, hid my keys, called pretending to be me to cancel. You destroyed my chance at my top choice school because you couldn't handle me being better than you. Jenna, I'm not finished. You did that and faced 0 consequences. Our parents didn't believe me. You never apologized. You just watched me struggle for 6 years while you succeeded at everything. I moved closer to her bed. But here's what you didn't understand. You sabotaging me made me better. Every hour I spent studying while you were sleeping, every surgery I volunteered for while you were comfortable, every patient I saved because I refused to be anything less than extraordinary, that was because of what you did. Vanessa was crying now, silent tears running down her face. You made me into a surgeon who could save your life when you needed it. So yeah, I operated on you. Not because I forgave you. Not because we're sisters. But because I'm a surgeon and you needed surgery, and I'm good enough now that I could do it right, I turned to leave. She spoke before I reached the door. I'm sorry. I stopped but didn't turn around. I was jealous. She continued. You were always smarter than me, more driven. I worked so hard to be the best, and you just naturally understood everything. When you got that Hopkins interview, I panicked. I thought if you went there, everyone would finally see that you were better than me. So I sabotaged you. And I've regretted it every single day since. I watched you struggle and I knew it was my fault, but I was too proud to admit it. I convinced myself you'd be fine, that you'd get into another school. But you weren't fine. And I destroyed your trust and our relationship over my own insecurity. I turned around. You're right. You did. And your apology doesn't fix it. I know. But you're my sister. And when you needed surgery, I wasn't going to let you die just because I hate what you did. Vanessa wiped her face. Thank you for saving my life, even though I didn't deserve it. No one deserves to die from an aneurysm. Not even you. I left her room and went back to work. We didn't suddenly have a relationship again. I didn't forgive her just because she apologized. But something shifted. She'd finally admitted what she'd done. Finally acknowledged the damage. It didn't erase 6 years of pain, but it was something. Vanessa recovered fully from her surgery. Went back to work 3 months later. She left Boston after that, took a job in California. Sent me a text before she left. I'm glad you became a better surgeon than I'll ever be. You earned it. I finished my fellowship top of my class. Got offered a position as an attending cardiac surgeon at Mass General. The same hospital where I'd operated on my sister. The same hospital where I'd proven I could separate personal feelings from surgical necessity. My parents came to my white coat ceremony this time. Both of them. They apologized for not believing me about the Hopkins interview, for choosing Vanessa's side without question, for not seeing how hard I'd worked to get here. I accepted their apology, but didn't forget that I'd gotten here despite them, not because of them. Dr. Yamamoto gave a speech at my ceremony. He talked about my precision, my dedication, my ability to handle complex cases that other surgeons avoided. He said I was one of the most talented cardiac surgeons he'd trained in 30 years. He didn't know about Vanessa sabotaging me, didn't know about the deleted alarm or the stolen interview. He just knew I was exceptional at saving lives. 3 years into my attending position, I published a paper on a new technique for repairing complex heart valve defects. It got picked up by major journals. I started getting invited to conferences to speak. Hospitals started recruiting me for leadership positions. I stayed at Mass General and focused on building a program for high-risk cardiac patients, the ones other surgeons said were too far gone. I developed a reputation for taking impossible cases and somehow pulling patients through. My success rate was among the highest in the country. Vanessa and I talked occasionally now. Not often, but sometimes. She'd call on birthdays, send texts about cases she found interesting. We weren't close. Probably never would be. But we weren't enemies anymore either. She'd destroyed something between us that couldn't be fully repaired, but we'd found a way to exist in the same world. My parents tried to make up for years of favoritism. They came to my lectures, asked about my research, told their friends about their daughter, the cardiac surgeon. It felt hollow sometimes, like they only valued me now that I'd achieved visible success. But I accepted it because holding grudges took energy I needed for surgery. 10 years after Vanessa sabotaged my Hopkins interview, I got a call from Johns Hopkins. Dr. Okonkwo, the admissions director who'd told me there was nothing she could do, was now the chair of their surgery department. She said they were building a new cardiac surgery program and wanted me to come lead it. Why me? I asked. Because your success rate is remarkable, and your research is transforming how we approach complex valve repairs. You'd be a perfect fit. You rejected my application 10 years ago. There was a pause. I remember. You claimed your sister sabotaged your interview. She did. She finally admitted it years later. Another pause. Then I owe you an apology. And a job offer if you're interested. I thought about it. The school that had rejected me was now offering me a leadership position. The interview Vanessa had stolen had led me down a path that made me better than I would have been if I'd gotten in the first time. I'm interested. But I have conditions. We negotiated for 3 weeks. I wanted autonomy over my program, funding for research, the ability to train residents my way. Hopkins agreed to everything. I accepted the position and moved to Baltimore. Started building a cardiac surgery program focused on the patients everyone else rejected. 6 months into my new job, I was invited to give a lecture at a national surgery conference. The topic was overcoming obstacles in surgical training. I almost declined because public speaking wasn't my strength, but Dr. Osi, my old mentor, convinced me to do it. The lecture hall was packed, hundreds of surgeons, residents, medical students. I stood at the podium and told them my story, about applying to medical school and getting my top interview, about my sister deleting my alarm, hiding my keys, calling to cancel while I slept, about waking up to missed calls and destroyed dreams. The room was completely silent. I told them about getting rejected, reapplying, ending up at a state school instead of Hopkins, about choosing cardiothoracic surgery out of rage, about working twice as hard as everyone else to prove I deserved to be there, about my sister's aneurysm and the choice to operate despite everything she'd done. She sabotaged my interview because she was afraid I'd be better than her, I said. And you know what? I am better. Not because I'm naturally more talented, but because what she did made me work harder than I ever would have otherwise. She tried to destroy my future and accidentally created the surgeon who saved her life. The room erupted in applause, standing ovation that lasted 2 full minutes. After the lecture, dozens of people came up to tell me their own stories. About family members who'd sabotaged them, parents who didn't believe in them, siblings who competed instead of supported, medical students who'd been told they weren't good enough. They said hearing that someone had overcome that kind of betrayal and still succeeded gave them hope. That night, my phone rang. Vanessa. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. I watched your lecture, she said. Someone posted it online. I waited. Everything you said was true. I did try to destroy your future, and you did become better than me because of it. Her voice cracked. I'm sorry. I've said it before, but I don't think I really understood what I took from you until I heard you tell that story to a room full of strangers. I stole your dream school and forced you to build everything from scratch. And somehow you still succeeded more than I have. I didn't succeed to spite you, I said. I succeeded because I refused to let what you did define me. I know, but you're allowed to be angry about it. You're allowed to hate me. I don't hate you, I just don't trust you, and I probably never will. She was quiet for a long moment. That's fair. I earned that. We talked for a few more minutes, then hung up. It wasn't closure exactly, but it was acknowledgement. She understood what she'd done, and I'd moved past letting it control me. My program at Hopkins grew. Within 3 years, we were ranked among the top cardiac surgery programs in the country. I trained residents who went on to become department chairs at other hospitals, published papers that changed surgical protocols nationwide. My patients, the ones everyone said were too sick, too complex, too risky, they survived at rates that made other programs take notice. I won awards, got invited to join editorial boards of major journals, was offered department chair positions at hospitals across the country. I stayed at Hopkins because I'd built something there that mattered, because this was the school that had rejected me, and now I was making it better. 15 years after the sabotaged interview, I got a letter from the medical school. They wanted to create an endowed scholarship in my name for students who'd overcome significant obstacles to pursue medicine. Students like I'd been, fighting against families who didn't support them, rebuilding after setbacks, refusing to quit despite every reason to give up. I said yes and contributed my own money to the fund. We named it the Second Chance Scholarship, because sometimes the path you didn't choose leads you somewhere better than you imagined. Vanessa called when she heard about the scholarship. That's incredible. You're helping people like you. People like us, I corrected. You overcame obstacles too. Different ones, but still obstacles. I was your obstacle. You were one of them, but you're not anymore. She laughed, a sound somewhere between sad and relieved. When did you get so mature? When I stopped letting what you did matter more than what I accomplished. We talked more regularly after that. Not constantly, but enough that when she got married, I was invited. When I published a textbook on advanced cardiac surgery techniques, she was one of the first people to buy it. We'd never have the relationship we should have had. Too much damage, too many years lost. But we had something. An understanding that we'd both made mistakes and both grown past them. My parents threw a dinner when my textbook was published. Both daughters there, both successful in their fields. My father gave a toast about being proud of his surgeon daughters. I thought about the years he hadn't believed me, the times he'd chosen Vanessa's version of events without question. But I also thought about him showing up to my lectures now, reading my papers, trying to understand my work. To my daughters, he said, raising his glass, both of whom proved that determination matters more than circumstance. I caught Vanessa's eye across the table. She gave me a small smile. Not the smirk from years ago, but something genuine. We drank to that. To determination. To becoming people our younger selves wouldn't recognize. To building lives from the wreckage of sabotage and betrayal. 20 years after the deleted alarm, I'm the chief of cardiac surgery at Johns Hopkins. I run a program that trains the next generation of surgeons. I operate on hearts that other surgeons say are beyond repair. I teach residents that impossible is just another word for difficult. Students ask me how I got here, how I built this career. I tell them the truth. My sister sabotaged my medical school interview, deleted my alarm, hid my keys, stole my chance at my dream school. She tried to destroy my future because she was afraid I'd be better than her. And in trying to stop me, she gave me the motivation to become extraordinary. I tell them that sometimes the people who hurt you the most teach you the most valuable lessons. That betrayal can be fuel if you're angry enough and stubborn enough and refuse to let it break you. I tell them about operating on Vanessa's aneurysm, about saving the life of the person who'd tried to destroy mine, about choosing to be a surgeon instead of a victim. Some of them understand. Some of them have their own Vanessas, their own saboteurs. I tell those students that the best revenge is becoming so undeniably successful that the people who tried to stop you have to watch you succeed. That living well is the greatest response to betrayal. Vanessa and I talk a few times a year now. She's a successful neurosurgeon, running her own practice in California. She's good at what she does. Not as driven as I am, but competent and respected. She never had another health crisis, never needed another surgery. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd let someone else operate on her aneurysm. If I'd stepped back and let Dr. Hoffman handle it when he finished his other surgery, if I'd chosen revenge over medicine. But that was never really a choice. Because I'm a surgeon before I'm a betrayed sister. Because saving lives matters more than settling scores. The Johns Hopkins lecture hall where I teach has my name on it now. The Jenna Hartley Surgical Education Center, funded by my textbook royalties and speaking fees. Students file in every week to learn from me. I stand at the front of the room and I think about 24-year-old me, devastated and betrayed, watching her future disappear because someone she trusted had sabotaged her. That version of me had no idea she'd end up here. Teaching at the school that rejected her. Running the program she wasn't good enough to attend. Saving lives with hands that learned precision from pure determination. My sister tried to destroy me. Instead, she made me unstoppable. And every surgery I perform, every life I save, every student I train, that's proof that betrayal doesn't have to be the end of your story. Sometimes it's just the beginning of becoming who you were always meant to be. I saw Vanessa at a conference last year. We had coffee between sessions, talked about our careers, our lives, the distance between who we'd been and who we'd become. She asked if I'd ever truly forgiven her. I told her the truth. I'd moved past it, but forgiveness wasn't the right word. But she did change the trajectory of my entire life. Made me harder, more driven, less trusting. Those weren't things to forgive. They were just facts to accept. But I'm grateful in a weird way, I said, because I don't think I would have pushed this hard if you hadn't pushed me out. She nodded slowly. I created my own monster. No. You created a surgeon who was good enough to save your life when it mattered. That's not a monster. That's just someone who refused to let you win. We finished our coffee and went to different sessions. I watched her walk away and felt nothing. No anger, no resentment, no lingering pain. Just the quiet satisfaction of knowing I'd built a life she couldn't touch. That the worst thing she ever did to me had become the foundation of everything I'd achieved. My sister sabotaged my medical school interview. Then she needed the surgeon I became. And I was good enough to save her. Not because she deserved it, but because I'd become someone who saves people. Even the ones who tried to destroy me. That's the real revenge. Not hurting them back, but becoming so skilled at your craft that you transcend their betrayal entirely. Becoming undeniably, unquestionably extraordinary despite every obstacle they placed in your path. She tried to make me fail. I became the best in my field instead. And every day I operate, every life I save, that's proof she didn't win. If you enjoyed this, you'll definitely want to see the next ones too. So subscribe now and let me know your take in the comments.